of African American culture, then you're all invited to not only observe, but to participate, as I am participating as the sous chef for Jacksonville's very own top chef, Kenny Gilbert, as we prepare special mouth-watering dishes, share stories, and trade cooking tips to honor Black History Month through the joy of cooking. Keep an eye out for occurrence for a luncheon invitation on February 14th, also known as Valentine's Day, featuring some of Chef Kenny's top recipes. See you there.
See what Ray can do with a new hip?
Hello everyone, I'm Ricky Erickson, Vice President of Electric Systems at JEA. I'm here to invite you to one of my favorite events of the year, the Florida Municipal Electric Association Line Workers Competition. And this year it's happening right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Line workers from all over the state will come together February 24th at Metropolitan Park to demonstrate their skill and knowledge of electric line work. It's a free event starting at 7:30 a.m. and it's fun for the whole family. Come out and cheer on our JEA teams. I hope I see you there.
Call the meeting to order. Can we have a time of reflection? Adopt the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Values moment. Cassandra.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cassandra Carmen, and I've had the pleasure of working at JEA for 6 years now. My role is a corporate strategy specialist, and I work on the enterprise strategy team, helping to ensure that each department at JEA is planning for the future in alignment with our strategic focus areas and objectives. For those attending in person, the safety protocol is on the screen and in your materials. For those attending remotely, please be mindful of your surroundings. At JEA, we have 3 core values: safety, respect, and integrity. This morning, I'd like to take a moment to highlight a value that's at the core of who we are: integrity. It's not just a buzzword or something that we put on our strategic vision to forget about. Integrity is the heartbeat of everything we do, the force that propels us beyond the ordinary and into being the best utility in the nation. It's in the genuine smiles of our employees, the trust of our customers, and the positive reputation that precedes us. I like to think of JEA using integrity as a compass that guides our actions and decisions to deliver business excellence. When faced with challenges, it steers us in the direction of honesty, transparency, and accountability. It's our unwavering commitment to doing what is right, even when it's not the easiest choice. Integrity is the promise that we make to every household, ensuring that when they flip a switch or turn on the tap, they can trust in the reliability of the services we provide. It's the reflection of our dedication to the well-being of our friends, family, and neighbors who rely on us. Beyond the tangible services we provide, integrity also shapes the development of an unbeatable team. It fosters a workplace environment where not just skills do we value our employees for, but also for their character. This boosts morale, teamwork, and innovation, all qualities that are essential for JEA to thrive in a rapidly evolving industry. As we move forward, let us not just see integrity as an expectation, but as an opportunity to elevate ourselves, our company, and our community that we are privileged to serve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Comments from the public? John Nooning.
Hello, I am John Philanthropic Resiliency Nooney, 8356 Bascom Road, Jacksonville, Florida, 32216. City Council District 4, CPAC Planning District 3, School Board District 3. All right, I'm sorry if you're not able to hear me. I'll try and speak up louder. All right, just a little bit of show and tell here, but just recently, the legislative body of the Jacksonville City Council, it's 2023-0819, is a resolution, and it was basically to me, with my support of the waterways and for public participation, and it was just 2 months ago. So thank you. But what I want to share with you, I also participated in this. This is the Resilient Jacksonville. Now, as I shared with you that resolution, this was October, a month earlier. Look at this thing. I mean, it's huge. I'm in it. I participated. And when you go and open up the page, here's a picture. Jacksonville, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but today. And go and look and do a site inspection. I mean, I almost wanted to throw up. I mean, go take a look. To me, that's fraud. That is misleading. So anyway, why I'm here, right now. Also, we are going to be bringing back the River Accord. I participated in this 10 years ago. And who's number one? JEA. This is like $1 billion thing right here. And so, I don't know if you're following any of this, but right here, now there's 2 meetings. There's a JEA guy there. And let me just say, here are the minutes, November 22nd. That was the first meeting. This is brand new stuff. Okay, I'm in there. But here is an evaluation of the St. Johns River Accord. And where I'm going, this is a bunch of stuff here. But what I'm advocating for, and let me just say, this is my second time coming to the JEA board. I was here, pull the tape in June. So I'm here today. Still need a sponsor. Our properties, category 1, next to a FEMA house. Now, if any of you are aware, Dan Scanlon just broke the news. The FEMA stuff, that was under the Environmental Quality Division. Got transferred over. So you had Steve Woodard, Todd Smith, now you have Andre Ayoub. But anyway, that's just breaking news. So why am I here? Well, again, JEA. And let me just say too, public access to our water, we're getting crushed. I'll show anybody. But right here, here's the River Accord. And this was the 9th, January 9th. And this is recent stuff. So you got $42 million to increase public access, $200 million for septic tank phase out. You have 2 septic tanks. So again, it's public access, what I am here for. And let me just say, when I came before the JEA board years ago, I asked, assign me somebody. Because when I come back in the February meeting and address you, it'll be, well, the guy or the person who was I assigned to last time, they were a no-show, no call. So it's a very bad reflection. So anyway, this should be positive. So JEA, I'm hoping for the sponsorship partner of JEA on the River Accord for the J. Stowe JE River Accord Park on Pottsboro Creek next to a FEMA house. Now, this is positive. And so I'll take any questions, any media from around the world as I wore my Sir Richard Branson shirt last time I was here in June. There's over 2,500 billionaires in the world. If you want to visit Florida, you're visiting Noonies. Because I'll tell you, it's fun. And it checks so many boxes with what your mission is for this community. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Any virtual public comments?
At this time, we do not see any raised hands or comments from the public virtually.
Councilmember Michael Boland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. I met with Jay on Friday. We had a great conversation. It was affirming for me his grasp of what's happening here and the challenges and opportunities ahead for this organization. And I garnered a greater appreciation of the fact that he comes from a municipal utility background, and I understand and appreciate that very much. That's really all I had to offer. I suggest not putting me on the agenda. He says, as soon as we take you off the agenda, you're going to have something to say. I realized I did have something to say today, so I appreciate the opportunity to share that. I'm also looking forward to with the reappointment of Mr. Baker and Mr. Morales to the board. As a member of the Rules Committee, I'll do what I can to usher that through.
Thank you so much, Michael, for what you do in our community. With that, I'll hand it to Jay for the.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Councilman Boland, thank you for those words. Welcome to our first meeting of 2024, calendar year 2024. We've wrapped up one quarter in fiscal year 24. And it's an interesting time because over the coming weeks, there's going to be even more of a spotlight on JEA. And while I wish we didn't have to keep on addressing an event that occurred really more than 4 years ago, I also don't want to let it go without mentioning. There's a trial scheduled to begin in 3 weeks, and JEA will be in the news a lot. And I want to acknowledge that, especially for those employees that were here during that time, it may be difficult to relive parts of that. But we remain committed to continue to provide the same reliable service, remain rooted in our core values of safety, respect, and integrity. And remaining rooted in our core values is the reason you may have noticed at board meetings and really at many of our meetings internally, we've moved away from solely talking about safety as a safety message. Safety is critical in the line of work that we do. Every day there's issues that put our teams at risk. But 4 or 5 years ago at JEA, we were just about as safe as we always were. It seems that some folks might have forgotten the other two values of respect and integrity. And we will not be the best utility or the best organization, the best place to work, or the best of much of anything if we forget any of the three values. So it's why we keep on reminding each other of it. Our challenges today are in large part less about a gap in values, but encouraging and taking the right steps to support and celebrate the right behaviors from our employees and our team members. And it's why we keep those values on equal footing of safety, respect, and integrity. The events from 4 years ago have no bearing on the decisions that we are making and have been making over the last few years. We remain a strong organization as evidenced by the rating agency comments, as evidenced by our customer satisfaction results, as evidenced by our employee engagement surveys. So we operate now on a firm foundation, fully focused on our mission and vision and clear strategic vision, in large part because of the work that you all as board members have done since your appointment and the time that you've put in to help make us a better place. With that firm foundation, we also need to be willing to do things differently. And as we've discussed over the past couple of months, we're adjusting the way we approach our planning process. Today, we'll review the overall steps that we plan on taking in that planning process, and then spend a deeper dive and a little bit more time looking at our first pass of our long-range financial plan. From here on out at board meetings, we'll be laying out different pieces of the plan, a workforce plan, a technology plan, all the background information that will make up our enterprise planning process. I'm looking forward to getting your feedback and direction on this long-range financial plan, as it will inform our 3-year business plan, which then will inform our annual budget that we take to the city. One of the items that's on the agenda that hasn't been for a little while is Plant Vogtle. There's a couple of items to discuss related to Plant Vogtle, but a more general update is that we had hoped that the 4th unit would have been online by now. We got an update this week that it is now scheduled to be the end of March, and it has been for a couple of months. That's been the target, is the end of March. So we're still on track to see the second unit of that we have of Plant Vogtle coming on. We'll continue to stay engaged with MEAG and Southern Company to keep you up to date on any changes with that. Another kind of reoccurring theme that has been in front of us over the last really couple of years has been supply chain, specifically transformers. And while we're in better shape relative to the smaller distribution transformers than we were just a few months ago, we still have significant problems and concerns related to larger three-phase transformers, the transformers that serve commercial projects. There are 17 commercial projects that are currently on hold pending transformer availability and delivery. Most of these projects are waiting and delayed by a month or two, but we have a couple of projects that are up as much as 8 months delayed. Developers are receiving regular updates and we're trying to find solutions and have been innovative with solutions along the way, talking to new suppliers and making every attempt to speed up the process. But there are also 42 potential commercial projects over the next 6 months that may be delayed for some period of time based on transformer availability. This is a national problem, not a JEA problem, and we're going to continue to stay in touch with and communicate with the developers who are impacted by these delays on a regular basis. The good news about having this many projects is that it comes and it supports the community and customer growth. And we have to keep on planning for this customer growth. Maintaining and expanding infrastructure and improving technology is really key to improving lives and building community. So today, one of the topics that we'll talk about is the electric rates. We're committed to continue these conversations to ensure that JEA maintains financial stability while offering reliable services at reasonable rates for our customers. We're proposing that most of the rate adjustments that we're talking about today would be effective in April, with one class being effective in September. On maybe a more fun note, you saw Ricky Erickson update you on the line worker competition. We'll be hosting the Florida Municipal Electric Association line worker competition on February 24th. It'll be held at Metropolitan Park. The last time we hosted it was 2013. But we have participants that go every year. This is an opportunity for line workers to come together from all over the region, demonstrate their skill, and show how we do work safely. It kicks off at 8 o'clock in the morning with what I think is an interesting event called the Mutual Aid event, where random journeymen are put together to work as if it's a mutual aid event on a real life scenario. There's 13 utilities that are competing in the event. There'll be food trucks and activities for kids. And so I encourage you to come out throughout the day and see what all is going on with a line worker rodeo. And finally, today, I want to recognize that JEA hosted a Generation WOW event on January 25th. Generation WOW is an organization bringing teen girls together to learn, to be inspired, and to form valuable connections. It helps to build leaders and inspire authentic connection through mentorship and education. And we have about 17 women that are helping mentor some of these young women. We hosted 60 from Riverside High, Darnell Cookman, Ed White High Schools for a day of tours at the Main Street Lab, the Mandarin Water Reclamation Facility at Pearl Street, at a construction site in Murray Hill. They had lunch with the mentors and heard from some of the women in leadership here. And I'd like to thank Raven Simmons, talent acquisition specialist, and the events team and the entire team of people that helped put on this day, because I think it's important for us. The work that we do is invaluable, and this is a way that we're improving lives and building community. And when you say finally and then you keep going, that means you didn't do it right. So there's one last thing I want to remind everybody, or let everybody know. Our internship program for 2024 is kicking off in May. We'll have 40 students this year in co-op intern program. 28 of them are college students, 12 are high school students. And we're already beginning to prepare and plan for our FY25 program, with applications due just a few days on February 9th. There's a lot of information in the package and a lot of things to cover, from the FY23 audit to the long-range financial plan, the electric rate adjustments. Some of these things we've been talking to you about for a few months, and some of them are what is going to require us to stay focused on, to be able to control cost. As you see, when we get into the financial plan, we have significant capital programs that we need to be able to implement, and want to be able to get all of our feedback to be able to be sure that we're making the best decisions that we can for JEA and for Northeast Florida. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I appreciate everybody being here today.
Any questions?
Jay, I appreciate you talking about what we're getting ready to relive from our past. And I want to make sure that everybody understands, certainly the rank and file, that this body and this executive team is focused on the future. We are interested in the future of this organization only. So I wish we didn't have to relive some of the past, but we're going to have to. But please remember, when you put your head on your pillow at night, we are focused on the future, and the future looks bright.
Thank you.
Well, I think we've shown how we focused on the future, and I think starting with John's leadership, and I think we've, in bringing Paul in for his interim and Jay, as I think we've shown leadership. I think we've shown integrity, and I think should be proud of where we've been to where we are today, and we've got a lot of challenges and opportunities in the future. JEA performance update, corporate scorecard. Stephanie?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm Stephanie Monroe. I am the Director of Enterprise Analytics at JEA, and I will be sharing the results of our corporate performance via our corporate scorecard. This is our first performance update using our new scorecard format. So to refresh your memory, this fiscal year we have set our performance goals to align with achieving a first or second quartile result. So our numeric targets are based on the target to achieve that quartile. And as you can see from all of the green, we've had a strong start to the year in terms of these 10 metrics. Since it is our first time presenting this update this year, I'll be briefly touching on each of them. So starting at the top with safety, our current lost time incident rate is 0.18, which, while above our ultimate goal of 0, is well below our first quartile target of 0.4. On employee engagement, we are still at a score of 80, with our next employee engagement survey slated to take place next month. On the first wave of our J.D. Power residential customer satisfaction survey, JEA landed in the second quartile for overall satisfaction with a score of 728. That was just 1 point away from a first quartile. JEA placed in the first quartile for satisfaction in all factors except for price, which we were at the very top of the third quartile. On the commercial side, JEA achieved a first quartile result, ranking #1 in customer satisfaction among business customers for South midsize utilities. JEA also ranked #1 in power quality and reliability in communications. Moving to reliability, on electric reliability, we have performed well in the first quarter with our SAIDI measure, which measures the duration on average each customer was without power, being 63.5 minutes, coming in under the threshold goal of 70 minutes to meet our quartile target. On water reliability, our grid water pressure metric has stayed relatively low so far at 0.84 and well below our target goal of 2.8. For wastewater, we had 4 sanitary sewer overflows in the month of December, and our cumulative SSO metric is currently at 0.14. For our financial metrics this year, we're looking at the variance at the total spend level. So this combines O&M, capital, and fuel and purchase power expense. And our current variance for budget at total spend level is 12.4% under. This is primarily being driven by capital expenses being about 25% lower than budgeted. Our current average combined customer bill in December was $203, which when compared to our peer group of other municipalities in Florida is both the lowest in terms of total customer bill and the lowest in terms of percentage of median household income. And lastly, our clean energy percent from our last monthly operating report was above our goal of 10% at 11%. And that concludes our corporate scorecard update. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Yes, good morning. There were figures around, and I believe that this may have been where it was featured before, around diversity of the teams. I think we looked at perhaps gender metrics. Where do we find that at now?
Yeah, I can take that. So our DEI metrics we were tracking those on the corporate scorecard last year. With the changes that we've made this year, we have sifted out some of our metrics to corporate performance and what we would consider a business level scorecard. So you'll see the links that we're working towards having enabled. The DEI metrics will link from our employee engagement to give more depth to what we see when we field that employee engagement survey. So we'll get the full DEI picture, but not here, one level lower.
Any other questions?
But if I may, our
Yep,
numbers
David.
are still trending the right way. We're still going the right way.
Thank you.
In the spirit of trying to keep it, I think our package was 820 pages this time. In the spirit of, it may be helpful to share those layers below. Maybe not all the time, but certainly every now and again.
It's a good idea.
800 pages.
I thought it was 820.
Yeah, 820. I thought you said 120.
Oh, no, 820. A lot of it was red line documents, though.
Yeah.
Quarterly financial update, Russell?
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Chair and the board. My name is Russell Caffey. I am the controller here, and I'm going to be going over the quarterly financial update. At the top of the screen is sales for electric. For the year, megawatt sales are in line with prior year and budget. Sales are down less than 1% from prior year, and they are under budget by less than 2%. The chart on the bottom left, The chart on the bottom left depicts electric O&M spending. The fourth bar is the forecasted FY24 spend. It's projected to be $312 million, which is $3 million less than the annual budget. And our projected spend is 99% of the annual budget. The chart on the bottom right is capital. The FY24 capital spend is 54% higher than prior year through the first quarter, and capital spend is projected to be 92% of budget. For electric revenue, gross revenues are down 11% from last year. That's $40 million, and it's primarily driven by a decrease in fuel revenue. This slide, this is the current month versus prior month fuel rate projections. This slide demonstrates the movement in our fuel rate projections. The dark blue is the current month, and the lighter blue is what our projection was last month. And I would also like to apologize for the font. I've never had a problem reading this slide until this quarter, and it's got to be my eyes. So I'll fix this. I steal this from a different department, and I've never had a problem reading it. This time I was like,
Hey, Russell, real quick on this slide. This is a slide that we look at each month to look at the forecast to understand how many changes we're going to see going forward for the rest of the fiscal year. And this helps us to track whenever we're making these moves monthly. It helps us to track that our forecast is pretty close. Is the reason that this one's important is it kind of shows what we anticipate it to be going forward for the rest of the fiscal year.
Yeah, this slide's great. It helps me track the wizardry that the fuel team handles on a daily basis. It's a little It's very complicated, so this helps me understand it.
Can you try to talk into the speaker?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What also helps us as we look at potential rate increases to make sure that our team is aligned and doing a good job on forecasting. So thank you all for being accurate as best you can be, because I know you don't control fuel prices, but it does help us as we have dialogue around what a total bill would look like in the future.
Can you elaborate on what the January is looking like as far as the fuel costs? Is it more in line with December, or is it more in line with budget?
You're talking about on this chart?
Yeah, I see what it is on this chart, but I'm just wondering what the actual is, which I'm assuming January is projected.
We set January in the middle of December, so that's actual.
Okay.
That's what January. So in February last month, we were expecting it to be $39.51 a megawatt hour, and it turns out it's $41.30 a megawatt hour. So the dark blue is what we're projecting each month for the rest of the fiscal year. The light blue is what we were projecting a month ago. So slight differences.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, water. The top of the screen is sales for water. Sales are down slightly over prior year, less than 2%, and slightly under budget. The annual forecast is still in line with the budget.
And there's one thing I've talked to Jay about, and I think we all got to focus in, is O&M and capital together. Electric and water is $1.3 billion this year. And it's just something that, we've got to focus on. And, I just want to make sure everybody understands how much money we're really spending in O&M. In O&M, we're spending a lot on labor, and, the capital expenditures are where they are, but they're going up. And fuel costs, you can manage just a little bit, but as far as O&M and capital, I think we should put a focus on that. That's just my thought.
We agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
You might spend a couple seconds just talking about.
I think that when we get into the long range financial plan, there's a couple of charts that will allow us to really dig a little bit deeper on that one. But we're focused on both O&M and capital, not just in this fiscal year, but what we need to be doing to plan going forward, how we can control those costs and reduce them where we can.
Perfect.
Any other thoughts on these slides?
I think there's a couple more.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to make sure.
All right. Water sales or water revenue. Water revenue is down 1% over prior year and is forecasted to be in line with budget. Our metrics. All right, this has changed a little bit. So our days of liquidity, the top, I'm sorry, if you've never seen this before, the top is electric system, the bottom is the water system, and these are our 5 key metrics that we've identified. Days of liquidity for electric are good. Your eyes will go down to the water side on the bottom. We have 43 days of liquidity for water. This is planned and in line with our capital spend. We have a bond deal that will be complete in a week, and that will be rectified. So this was, it has the big red exclamation point next to it, but it was part of our plan and planned. As your eyes go, also our fixed charge on the top will also be fixed by the end of the year. So it's slightly under. And then at the very end, we have our weighted average yield investments. And every time I tell you we're closing in on our target, we're closing in on our target. And again, we're closing in on the target. This time, for the first time in December, we actually caught our target for just the month itself. So as things are trending, we are still closing in on the 2-year treasury note.
What was the December number?
I'll send it to you.
Was it right at 424 or was it, or 459? Or higher? I'm just curious.
471, that's right. It was
471.
471.
Keep that up, you catch the number.
We're trying. I know, when they sent it to me, they were so excited. I was like, yes, when she brings it up, I'm gonna have some great news. I had to get it in there, so. And I'll take any questions.
Well, Jay, thank you for sending that out last night on the liquidity. That was
Thank you.
helpful. Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff we can't, I mean, it's, the weighted average yield, you can do the best you can on fuel prices, you can do the best you can, but, it's O&M and capital, we can manage that a little bit better. And I know Jay's on that.
That explanation on liquidity was very helpful because if we had stayed in that trajectory, that would have been a big issue.
Yep.
Thank you.
Russell, thank you. The consent agenda. We need an action. Approval. Second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board minutes of November 7th, 2023.
That was the consent agenda.
That was part of the consent, okay. Then fostering exceptional work culture, David.
Thank you, Chair Stein, board members. Per Article 17 of the Jacksonville Municipal Code, JEA makes 2 appointments to the 9-member Civil Service Board. Ms. Geraldine Lockett finished her term on September 26, 2023. From there, we embarked to locate another participant. And we did. And that participant will be, if voted upon, Tamika Gaines Holly, who is a Jacksonville native, who's with us today. And she grew up in the city. She grew up on the north side. She's a proud recipient of a Gene Ribault High School. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Management from Florida A&M University, a Master of Public Health from the University of North Florida, and a certification in Community Real Estate and Development from the University of South Florida. She also has an Executive Master of Public Policy from Jacksonville University. She's a proud mother of 3, and she's married to a JSO retired officer. It is with pride that we recommend to the board that Tamika Gaines Holly be appointed to the Civil Service Board.
Is there a motion?
Proud to move. What an amazing resume. So accomplished.
Second.
Discussion? It's exciting, and we appreciate you willing to serve. With that, all those in favor?
Aye. Congratulations. Yay. And thank you. Thank you very much, Tamika. We really appreciate your willingness to serve.
So with that, John DeSanto has COVID, and he's going to do his financial report, EY audit from afar. So we have him on the Zoom. At least I think we do.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Sorry about your...
Thank
Sorry
you.
we
Yes.
told everybody that you had it.
Yeah, I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I tested positive over the weekend. I had been able to avoid it, all these years thus far, and I guess I ran out of luck. So I do appreciate your flexibility, though, in allowing me to present the audit results virtually. So thank you for that. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, JEA management, and others in attendance. As you know, I'm John DeSanto. I am a managing director with Ernst & Young, and I'm happy to say that I'm here to present our 2023 audit results. So on this page here, the executive summary, I'll work left to right. Key business priorities during the fiscal 2023 year, JEA adopted 3 accounting standards. The first one was on conduit debt obligations, which really was just a disclosure standard. And the second one was public-private partnerships. And the third one was on subscription-based information technology arrangements. JEA did adopt all of these. None of them had a significant impact on your financial statements, on either the statements themselves or the footnote disclosures. I'm also happy to say that consistent with our plan, we did agree to increase our usage of your internal audit department to provide us assistance, staffing assistance for our audit. And we increased it. We doubled the number of hours from around 200 to almost 400 hours. And that resulted in approximate savings, total savings on your audit fees in the 40 to 50,000 range, or an additional 20 to 25,000 from the level that it was previously at. We enjoyed working with Lee and his team, and again, we had no issues with the quality of the work or any other matters working with the internal auditors. As far as the areas of emphasis go, these were the matters that we communicated to the audit committee during our planning meeting, which was, I think, in the July-August timeframe. These matters are on this list and are areas of audit emphasis due to either their size, the volume of transactions, or their subjectivity, i.e. they're based on estimates or things like that. We did review that plan with the audit committee back in July or August, and I'm happy to say we completed all of the planned procedures. We did not have any changes in those procedures, and there were no matters to report relative to these key areas of the audit. Looking forward, we are currently working with JEA and the underwriters and bond counsel related to the new water bond issue. So we're on target to issue our reports for that during next week. And the only remaining service we have left for 2023 is our uniform guidance audit. That's the audit of the federal financial assistance that JEA received during the fiscal 2023 year. The deadline for that is June of 2023. We are currently scheduled to complete and start the work in the April to May timeframe. The next few slides are the required communications. These are the matters that auditors are required to communicate to those charged with governance in organizations such as this board. As far as the auditor's responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards, our responsibilities are set forth in our engagement letter or engagement agreement with JEA that has been previously provided. We also, while it says here at the time we issued this deck, we were planning to issue our opinion on the financial statements on December 15th. We actually did issue our clean or unqualified audit opinion on December 21st of 2023 for the year ended September 30, 2023. There were no key audit matters to bring to your attention, no changes to the audit strategy that we communicated during the July 2023 audit committee meeting. We did not identify any conditions or events that led us to believe there was doubt about JEA's ability to continue as a going concern. With respect to your related party relationships and transactions, they are adequately recorded and disclosed in your financial statements, and there were no significant changes from prior years. As far as our views about the JEA's accounting policies, including their accounting estimates, there were no changes in accounting policies or estimates during the 2023 year. Also, there were no significant or unusual transactions that were entered into by JEA during the 2023 year, and there were no difficulties or contentious matters that were subject to consultation outside of our audit team during the 2023 audit. We did not have any audit adjustments, either recorded or left unrecorded. that we identified during the audit. There were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls. As far as the supplementary information, the schedules of debt service coverage, and the required supplementary information related to your pension and OPEB plans, we did review them and we found them to be consistent with the audited financial statements. We did not identify any instances of fraud or violations of laws or regulations, and there was no other information that was relevant to the audit to bring to your attention. And with respect to independence matters, Ernst & Young does continue to be independent of JEA to allow us to function as your external auditors. As I mentioned, there were 3 accounting pronouncements that were issued by JEA during the year, none of which had a significant impact on your financial statements. There were no significant issues discussed with management in connection with our reappointment as your external auditors, no disagreements with management or significant difficulties in performing the audit. We continue to receive outstanding cooperation from Ted and Russell and their team in allowing us to complete the audit within that 3-month period of time. And we're not aware of any consultations that management may have had with other accountants. And that essentially wraps up the matters that I wanted to highlight related to our required communications. The related slides in your deck are just appendices. Appendix A just relates to the procedures we performed on those significant accounting matters that I communicated when I went over the executive summary with you. So a little bit more detail or color around those, the specific work we did and our findings. And again, I told you we did not identify any issues that we need to bring to your attention. And then Appendix B is just the details of the assistance in specific audit areas that we received from your internal auditors. Again, they're really just for your information. And unless you would like me to go over those with you, I was not planning on going over them during this meeting. And that really wraps up my discussion of the audit results for the 2023 year. So I'll just open up to any questions.
Any questions, Ted?
I would just like to make just 1 or 2 comments. I'd like to commend Russell Caffey and his staff. This is the earliest we've gotten the audit done since I've been here. So, his relationship and maybe pressure on the city to get numbers as quickly as we needed them. So I really appreciate that. And also the fact that we got a clean audit with no findings, no adjustments. That is the standard that we have set for ourselves, and we will continue to live to that standard. But that's a pretty high bar. So I'm very proud of the staff and all the hard work that went into this, and also thank internal audit for the work that they've done to help lower the cost on this audit. So thank you very much.
Just one question is cybersecurity part of the audit?
Yeah, well, what we do is we actually review some of the general controls around your IT environment, of which cyber is part of that. Again, we're not really doing detailed testing of it. We're looking at the policies, making sure they're consistent with industry standards and any external regulations that you might be subject to. So again, we've done that. And if there were any matters to report, we would have reported them to you in a management letter or during this presentation.
I'll tell you what we found is the insurance companies are as close to being on top of the cyber issue as anybody, including some of the federal agencies just don't have time to focus in on it. So in our businesses, we found the insurance companies are our best audit function. Yeah. I don't know what you guys think. Go ahead, John.
No, Laura, did you have?
Mr. Morales, great question. I want to make you comfortable that we have many other mechanisms and external regulators and auditors who come and look under the hood in great detail on corporate cybersecurity and what we call OT, operational technology cybersecurity, especially where our system interfaces with the bulk electric system.
It's so scary out there nowadays. It's just such a concern. So
We'll have some more news for you later this year.
all right, thank you.
Ted. Just to piggyback on Chair Stein's comment about the insurance companies. So we work very closely with our insurance companies on our cybersecurity, and they were very pleased with the results of, you know, the things that they've looked into. Joe, are you out there? There you go. I'm going to get the numbers wrong. But I know we were able to increase our cybersecurity at a very nominal fee, where I know some of my counterparts in the industry were seeing significant increases in their cybersecurity insurance with lower or the same coverage.
John, you had a question?
Well, I answered my question.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? John, I hope you feel better. Yeah.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to make this presentation virtual. As you know, I prefer to be in person, but I do appreciate the flexibility.
And I know Marty's worked tirelessly with John, but my interactions, John, has been fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give Joe, as chair of the finance committee, kudos, because I always had to present a draft. So he got to present a complete audit. So do you like Joe better than me, John? Is that what's happening here? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, ma'am.
Thank you for to the city, really, because that they've been our holdup in the past. So I'm glad that partnership is working.
Thank you. Energy market risk management policy, Laura.
Good morning, Chair Stein and members of the board. I'll say right up front, I'm responsible for at least 60 pages in the packet, but that gave you a clean and a red line version of our energy market risk management policy. It is a lengthy one, but it should be, because it guides the practices, the business practices that we should adhere to in order to manage our activity in the hedging market and the fuels market. So there are no substantive changes in this policy, but our fuels team reviews it routinely and advised us that it needed to be changed to reflect current staffing and structures. And they also identified some duplicative language. So it's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit easier to read, to learn about the risks that we face if we're in these markets, how we partner with TEA, and how we keep our staff trained on FERC standards of conduct and other rules that govern behavior in the markets. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
We're kidding about the length of the package, and thank you for the red line document particularly. That's where I go all the time, and it was very helpful.
No, we're not kidding.
We don't have to read every page, right? But the red line I read, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I make a motion that we approve the
Second.
policy.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, John. Deepen customer and community engagement. Sheila?
Thank you, Chair Stein and Board of Directors. I am pleased to announce that our business customers have ranked JEA the highest in customer satisfaction with business electric service in the South among mid-sized utilities for calendar year 2023. This is the first time in nearly a decade for this recognition.
Yay.
Among Florida utilities, JEA ranked #1 overall, edging out FPL, Duke, and TECO. Nationally, we ranked 13 out of 77 utilities represented in the study, which is in the first quartile, and we ranked third among mid-sized utilities nationally. And that's defined as utilities serving between 50,000 and 89,000 business customers. Our customers rated us particularly well in the following factors: frequency of updates and notices of new developments. Our integrated resource plan is just one example of the community involvement and communication. Communication of topics or issues that are important to businesses, supplying electricity during extreme temperatures, and promptly restoring power after outages. We were able to improve our ratings during an industry downward trend because the industry as a whole is feeling pressure. Our customers are feeling pressure from price. So I wanted to recognize a few of the employees that contributed to our overall success. They are representing the communications, business client relationships, and electric ops group. So please stand if you're in the room. Kenny Lockwood, electric maintenance coordinator.
You guys come up. Y'all come up front, please. Yeah, come up front, yeah.
Matt Stafford, electric maintenance coordinator. David Red, electric troubleshooter. Okay, he's probably out restoring power somewhere. Clara Barton, manager owned communications. Is she here? Mike Haddon, manager customer and corporate communications. Kevin Briscoe, communications specialist. Don't you guys look nice? And then for customer experience, Tracy Day, who's manager of our business client relationships group. Recently promoted to director of business client relationships. And not with us today, recently retired Randy Swift, who was the director of business client relationships. Thank you all.
We couldn't do it without you, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate everything you do every day.
You should take a picture.
Last time I came to a board meeting, that there was some other type of board representative. We brought hats. Our rodeo hats weren't ready yet, so we got the board members.
Well, we would love to come out to rodeo, but more important, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys, what you do every day. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
We are thankful to our customers who've acknowledged the efforts of our more than 2,000 employees that serve them well. Please know that our story is far from over. We're listening to our customers and improving every day. I'd like to introduce John Hazen, who is the Managing Director of Client Services for J.D. Power. John is going to present the trophy. Thank you, John.
Well, good morning. Congratulations. What's awesome is it isn't 5 or 6 J.D. Power people sitting in some random room. It's hundreds of your customers who took about 20 minutes to complete a survey related to power quality, billing and payment, customer care, communications. And we surveyed thousands of folks across the country. And we met with some of the team yesterday. And the good news is, even on the residential side, what we see is the industry overall satisfaction has been dropping the last couple of years as price satisfaction has been impacted with rate increases and folks maybe struggling a little bit to pay their bill with some financial challenges. But what's awesome with the JEA team is you've held your own, right? Your scores have actually held steady where the industry has dropped about 17 points. So on behalf of your customers, I'd like to officially present the trophy for the highest ranked business customer satisfaction in South Midsize. Congratulations, JEA.
Can we get a picture? I mean, do you want to get it? Don't you want to memorialize this? Did the team already leave? Did everybody leave already? They've already left.
Back to work.
Missed an internal comms.
Sheila,
Right there.
a lot to be proud of. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Amazing.
Now we go back to our favorite power plant, MEAG, Power Department of Energy Loan Guarantee. Joe, you and Russell and team did a great job on the refinancing, but I just wanted to thank you and thank you for all the work you've done since the beginning of the recreated JEA. So
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So I think Joe and I are going to tag team on this a little bit. So we have two agreement amendments concerning Plant Vogel. The first one is an amendment to the energy loan guarantee with the Department of Energy. And the second is an amendment to the purchase power agreement with MEAG. And I am going to let Joe talk about all the details of that. So go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Ted. Good morning, Chair Stein and JEA board members. I'd also like to provide a shout out to Randall Barnes, our treasurer. Randall spearheaded this bond offering. He's going to talk more about it in a few minutes, but a tremendous result. A little more mundane than Sheila's presentation, unfortunately. We have a couple of board action items. The first is the Department of Energy or DOE loan guarantee agreement amendment. We are requesting that the board approve the ratification of this agreement that Jay executed at the beginning of December. The amendment allows nuclear production tax credits or PTCs to be distributed from MEAG to JEA. That process actually began last month as a credit to our monthly bill, about $650,000. We're estimating annual PTCs of approximately $15 million that'll come to JEA, and it'll help to offset the cost of the MEAG power purchase agreement. So that is the first item. The second item is a second amendment to the amended and restated power purchase agreement with MEAG. The existing amended agreement did not provide for bridge financing on capital expenditures post completion of the units. So this, and unfortunately, I have a significant number of pages in that appendix of agreements. There is a red line version. OGC, Ms. Ross has reviewed and approved the amendment. And the bridge financing, I'm sorry, back to the PTCs, they'll run through calendar year 2032. Approximately 115 million of credits will come to JEA. On the bridge financing and related additional debt service, well, that'll run over the entire 20 years of our PPA. MEAG's current financial forecast calls for approximately 140 million over a 20-year period of debt service, 80 million of interest, 60 million of principal. The significant component of the post-COD capital expenditures are for a spent fuel storage facility at the site. So with that, requesting that the board approve these action items.
Can we get action on those two items?
Can I clarify one thing real quick, Joe? The production tax credit is $15 million a year, but we knew that was coming, and it's been in it's not new $15 million.
Correct.
We've known it. It's been in the plan.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Correct. Through the
Thank
chair to the amount is included in MEAG's long range financial. Thanks for forecast. That's correct.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Victor?
Hold on one second.
Yep.
Is that okay, Regina, for one action for both of those? Is it okay for one action for the loan guarantee and the agreement amendment? Okay, thank you.
Fiscal year 24 electric call for rate hearing.
So we're going to move from our favorite topic of Plant Vogel to our second favorite topic of rate hearings. So Victor and I are going to tag team a little bit on this one as well. So again, here is our rate strategy goals that we have been consistently showing you for the last several months, where we use a cost of service study to help us figure out what our revenue targets are. Then we try to make adjustments to improve our rate structure, and then from that we revise the tariff. As a reminder, this is the where the revenue targets are set by rate class. As you'll remember, back a few months ago, based upon our initial recommendation was to only make adjustments to the residential and the large industrial rates. Based upon feedback we got from the boards, we adjusted that. And so here is where we are with that currently. Wanted to take just a moment to explain what the impact of this would be to a residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. The customer charge would increase by about 75 cents, and then the energy portion of the charge would increase by about $2.75 for this 1,000 kilowatt a month customer. We have compared the December bill to the proposed increase in April. You can see that 75 cents and that 275 on the first two lines. Also, there will be an adjustment, as you know, monthly on the fuel charge. And as we talked about our projections a little bit earlier on fuel charge, but you can see that number going down from December to April. And so that impacts the total cost of the rate increase, where the customer's bill for 1,000 kilowatt hour a month will be more in the neighborhood of 88 cents or $1, around $1, than the full 350. So we don't have a slide on this, but if you compared that back to April of 23 versus April of 24, the difference in the fuel charge would be more, the difference in the fuel charge decline would be more than the total increase. And then back to Stephanie's scorecard. Here we are with our combined bill for a residential customer. We are the blue dotted line. As you can see, we are still ranked the lowest. And even after we put in this increase, we still would be rated lowest based upon these numbers. Also, based upon board suggestion, we've added the bottom part down here where we talk about the residential bill as opposed to the median household income. And again, we are the lowest of the areas.
Can I ask a question on
Yes,
that
ma'am.
slide? And I'm sorry, this is totally off topic, but what is Gainesville doing that has them reducing their total bill?
Gainesville's doing, there's a lot going on in Gainesville. So
Must be. I'm just
GRU,
curious.
well, yeah.
Not good?
A
I
lot
don't know.
of good things that they're doing to lower their bills. Some of that is tied to the fuel, and some of it is tied to the legislation last year, where the legislatures and the governor now appoint the board to the GRU. It's still a city agency, a city organization, but the governor appointed board. And there's lots of discussion back and forth between the city of Gainesville and GRU over significant debt that they've had and a lot of other issues going on. So it's a mix of issues that have caused that to change over time. There's a complicated separate board meeting.
There's a story there. All right, thank you.
So the 3.8% of household income, that's at the new adjusted rate. That's what that's what they will be.
I think that is the current rate.
That's current.
The current rate. So the 88 cents, not going to venture to do the math in my head, but it would still be relatively.
I was just curious if it's current or future.
Yes, sir.
No, but this kind of tells the
It's
picture.
very telling. This is the bottom graph is almost more telling than the upper graph.
Yeah, that to me, we need to be competitive, but we also have got to be financially stable, not only for us in the city. So I mean, the type of capital we're going to have to spend in the next 10 years.
You have to pay for it.
Yes. Any other?
So we can move to the next.
Yep.
So here is a breakdown on the commercial industrial rates, and I'm going to pass the baton to Victor now to let him go a little bit deeper dive into this.
Thank you, Ted. So none of these are new. We've been going over these for a couple of months now, but just to recap, part of our recommendations is to increase the rates here for our small commercial customers and our large commercial customers, as well as make some adjustments in our curtailable and interruptible riders as well. But with all of these adjustments that we're recommending, the impact to the bills is somewhere between 3 to 5% on our small commercial and large commercial bills. If you recall, back in September, we stated that we wanted to do some research and look into a rate design for our extra large demand customers. So we were considering a new rate. As we looked into that new rate, we came to some great conclusions, which we'll get to in a minute.
There we go.
All right. So where we landed, for the most part, is we did like what we saw when we started looking at this new time-based industrial rate for extra large demand customers. And those are the customers that are 50 megawatts or larger. And where we finalized, which I'll talk about in the next two slides, is we'd like to close the existing IXXLD rate, but also open a new rate for existing and new customers, which I'll get into details on the next two slides. So this is the one that already exists in our tariffs today, our interruptible service extra large demand. There is a lot of rate components here, and I won't bore you by going through all of them. But overall, with the adjustments that we've made here, the overall impact to the customer's bill will be somewhere about 1%. But this rate structure here was designed years ago to incentivize higher energy usage, which will speak to why we like this next, thank you. Which is why we like to also recommend introducing a new rate structure, which is our general service extra large demand time of use. Unlike the ISXLD, this rate structure here is designed to give our customers flexibility to move their consumption away from high price periods to lower energy charges. The reason why we like this structure here, because it also helps our system utilization. If we can encourage our customers to move their high loads off of the peaks to the valleys, it will assist us as well in our system utilization. And likewise, either way with these rate design structures, again, the impact to the bills are minimum. As you can see there, about $42,000 for the fiscal year 2024. And as always, anytime we have a call, we like to go through our tariffs to see if there's some opportunities there to realign any of the language with our current operations and our strategic directions. So there's also some administrative things that we'd like to implement as well, which is outlined here in this slide. Ted?
So here's kind of our timeline that we've been talking about over the last several months. So we're kind of right in the middle today, being at the January 3rd board meeting. So we would recommend to the board to call a public hearing at the February board meeting on February 27th. And then based upon feedback that we receive from the board, we would be ready to come back to the March 26th board meeting with a rate action. So today, all we're asking for is a recommendation to the board to call a public rate hearing at February board meeting. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion?
Questions?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Water and sewer bond offering update. Russell? Randall, excuse me, I'm sorry. I was looking at Russell.
No
Russell
worries.
was
Thank you.
surprised by that.
Randall Barnes, treasurer. Russell and I get confused, but he's the tall, skinny one.
So I'm going to just introduce this briefly and get out of the way. So for Randall to share the good news about our bond issuance. So I want to take a step back. So last week we priced these bonds, and Randall's got a little slide to go over to explain all the information regarding that pricing. But I also think it would be remiss if I did not mention the bond ratings that took place before the pricing. So two of the three agencies kept our AA plus rating at a stable outlook, but Moody's actually moved us from a stable to a positive outlook. And one of the factors that they mentioned in their reasoning for doing that was the stability of this board. So thank you for all of that you are also doing. This is all a team sport. So your help in keeping this board in a stable situation is also being reflected in positive on our bond rating. So I did want to share that one comment. And then one of the things that I was very excited about on this bond issuance was that it was 5 times oversubscribed. So in layman's terms, that's basically for every dollar of debt we had to issue, we got $5 worth of offers, which helped us drive down the interest rates on this. So this was the first time that we have been in the market with new money for about 10 years. So I'll pass it over to Randall and let him give you all the details.
Well, you stole all his thunder.
Well, I know, I couldn't help it.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, I'll be a smart aleck. If we had 5 times demand, why didn't we lower those rates?
We did.
We did. So we did.
Yeah, to your point, it's always sort of a tricky thing when you go into the market to issue bonds. We the week prior there had been some what I would call softness in the municipal market, and particularly since a lot of our maturities are on the long end, there was some softness, and so in pre-marketing on Monday, we had some discussions with some large investors who were interested at the log end, and we got some good feedback from them. We made a few slight adjustments to the coupons, and were able to go into the market on Tuesday morning and saw a really good demand. And so the results here on the screen, we ultimately issued $504 million of bonds. As you know, you authorized $353 million of new money for water capital projects. And then the balance of that was refunding of outstanding debt. So we were able to actually achieve an NPV savings on the refunding bonds of 7.24%. And that equates to about $12.4 million in savings on the refunding bonds. The all-in true interest cost on these bonds was 4.41%, which was good. We saw, as Ted mentioned, $2.5 billion in orders, and that's 5 times oversubscribed from 70 different investors. So that's a really strong order book. 70 investors interested in looking at JEA. Apologies, that's my past. 70 different investors looking to buy JEA bonds is a really strong book. And the investors included across the board asset managers, hedge funds, bond funds, insurance companies, and others. Many of them are names companies like BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, Loomis Sales, PIMCO, Prudential, Invesco, State Farm, Northwestern Mutual Life, lots of investors you've heard of. So it's really a strong testament to JEA's brand and what we're doing here, and strength in our financials. And also just like to say I really appreciate all the work that my team put in on this. This is a lot of work to do a bond transaction like this, and also folks throughout JEA who helped us put together the official statements and all the things that we have to gather a lot of information from a lot of folks in a very short amount of time, and really do appreciate everyone contributing on this effort.
Let me just say, Ted, you and your team have made great strides on all fronts. I mean, from getting our audited financials done on time to get the bond reissuances, dealing with MEAG. So thank you for what all you and your team are doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Randall, there's what's the status of the official statement?
The official statement is we will be providing the actual to the board for review, the official statement today, and you'll have a few days to review it. It's pretty much complete. Closing is actually going to be February 7th, so we'll get the proceeds next week, and so we're in really good shape. There are going to be some documents that we'll ask you guys to sign, hopefully this afternoon or after the meeting, to help us finish up with closing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Plan for the future, enterprise planning process. Laura Dudden.
Good morning, Chair Stein and board members. I think you've heard a theme today around financial strength and the work that the teams have been doing. This whole topic is to try to keep that going. So I'm considering it a privilege to talk with you a little bit about JEA's enterprise planning process. This is representative of a fundamental shift in how we do things. It extends planning horizons for us. It helps us look at refined structure and process that we need to help us plan for the future. It will position us to build out a comprehensive 10-year plan. My friend and colleague Ted Phillips has likened it to turning the lights on further down the hallway, shining light on where we're headed. So I'm stealing his analogy. 3 real goals with this process. The first is ensuring we have alignment with our strategic direction. Secondly, that we have all of our plans pointing back to a consistent set of key assumptions. And third, that we set the process and structure for how we go about prioritizing our resources, or as I've often referred to it, the talent, technology, and things that we need to accomplish our work. While it looks simple, let's not confuse that with easy. In fact, it's quite complex, as each set of plans builds on the outputs of those before them. You'll see that reflected here. The direction and assumptions feed into the key strategic plans that then feed the key supporting plans. Those become the 3-year business plan for which our budget for both our board and city council approval will align. And that's the work that we go to execute. We launched this new process back in November. Sorry, I paused too long. You'll take me back to the previous. Thank you. We launched this process back in November, where we reviewed and affirmed JEA's strategic direction
our vision, mission, values, focus areas, and strategic objectives. Scorecard, the means by which we measure our progress against those strategic objectives. The financial goals that are reflective of our board-approved pricing policy. Our operational goals that are inclusive of the compliance we will have with our environmental regulations and with our recently approved electric integrated resource plan goals. It also included the key planning assumptions that we're using as the basis for building out our plans. Those include forecasted growth, capital needs, the operations and maintenance spend trajectories, and our debt levels. We're now in the second section of this particular process, the key strategic plans. And later this morning, you're going to hear, we'll get the chance to review the long-range financial plan. Our long-range resource plan, supply plan, is generally how we serve the needs of our customers. So our asset portfolio, the generation mix we plan over the next 10 years. And those are the things that will bring together the best ways for us to serve our customers. That's where operation and maintenance and capital allocations come in. These are the components that we know we need to spend some time prioritizing over the near term so that it supports the long-term direction and where we're headed. The changes in the way that we need to serve our customers, environmental regulations, technological advances, supply chain disruption, all of these things require the endless reinvention. And this process will allow us to constantly pursue that, test our assumptions regularly, change them when it's appropriate, and really shift us from a cyclical budgeting cycle to an ongoing planning process. In the key supporting plan section, we don't see fuel and purchase power simply as pass-throughs. We know that's one of the largest expenses our customers bear.
Laura, we can't hear you. Yeah.
Did it drop? I feel like I'm off. Oh, there it is.
There
I
you
feel like
go.
I'm awfully close already to the microphone. Okay, so our key supporting plans, I'll focus in on fuel and purchase power. We don't see that as simply a pass-through. We know it's one of the largest expenses that our customers have to bear. And so it's important to us to be conscientious about those. While they are primarily market-driven, we have hedging practices in place, and we are going to include those in our plan to make sure we're minimizing the volatility, these expenses, and the impact they have on our customers. Planning for JEA's talent, technology, and the things we need to accomplish our work to be able to execute on a very significant project portfolio is something that we must do with intention. It cannot be just in support of the rest. You may have heard the statistic that 30% of JEA's workforce is eligible to retire. We also have several key resource decisions coming our way that we know will certainly have an impact on our workforce. So we are being very intentional about the who and the how we accomplish our work. Primarily ensuring we have the ability to build a pipeline of and recruit strong talent, and that we're really paying attention to the technology available to us to improve how we go about our work. If you shift into execution, these plans all pulled together will become the basis where we will start fine-tuning out the detail in the near term, the immediate 3 years, or what we refer to as the business plan. These are the things that our annual budgets for both you all, the board, and the city council will align. As we go about executing on these plans, we're going to be constantly updating our forecasts, assessing internal and external factors that we see around us, reviewing how well our plan matches reality, and adjusting accordingly. The goal of this process is a repeatable, methodical, cohesive planning process with robust structure that gives us the ability to evoke greater levels of confidence from you, our board, from our organization, and ultimately from the customers that rely on us every day and deserve to be served by the best utility in the nation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm just glad we're launching this process. I think it's a natural fit, obviously, with the energy and input we put into the IRP, that we would have an enterprise planning process behind it.
My only concern is making sure we move forward on this plan, but don't get tied up in bureaucracy. There's a lot of boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the boxes are things that we need to be able to accomplish and do. So what is the long-range plan? And feeding into that, the more specific O&M and capital allocations, we've got to have better plans in place to then be able to execute. So this is hopefully this is a way to simplify and to hopefully eliminate bureaucracy, and to be sure that we know what's going on ahead of time, have that longer range view.
This is one of those moments that, and I understand and I agree with the decision to move away from the committees, but these topics and these boxes could have benefited from a deeper dive in a committee meeting. So Jay, I'm just going to challenge you to make sure that the board is informed and we find time to do deeper dives into these boxes so that it's not just a big presentation at the end of the process.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it'd be part of it.
Yeah.
All right, it gives me great pleasure now to introduce to you JEA's newest Vice President, Julie Crawford. She leads the Enterprise Strategy and Planning Organization, and she'll take us through the long-range financial plan. Thank you.
All right.
Julie, yes, I've worked with Julie and she is impressive, and congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm honored to be here. Good morning. I will be touching on our long-range financial plan. Please tell me if you can't hear me because I'm not good at.
Pull it closer.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
So close to the mic. Okay, there we go. As Laura mentioned, I'll be
You've
touching
got
on
a
our.
bunch of deaf old guys over here. Not speaking of John, me.
Just tell me if it gets too quiet. This plan depicts the information we know now, projected out 10 years, and I truly, truly believe it can't be said enough that this is a brand new process for JEA. We continue to gain insight on how this can get better as we learn and work together on planning for the future. But right now, more than anything else, we are uncovering all the things we want to add precision, alignment, and prioritization around, and we will continue to improve as we repeat the planning process each cycle. Our key planning assumptions, this slide right here, was presented in November, and having these established was critical to framing our long-range plan. It was the guide for creating the more in-depth year-by-year projections. While most of these things still ring true, we had to adjust some items. Customer sales and O&M growth remain the same. The resource plan is consistent. The timing of the capital plan has created a larger need in annual revenue requirements. So yearly requirements show higher needs than we have discussed in previous meetings, and I'll get into that in more detail in further slides. As we're walking through this plan, it's very important to mention that we are always striving for balance. You may recognize these words from the integrated resource plan that was just completed, but this concept is not just for electric resource planning. It applies to all of our long-term planning efforts. Our goal is to optimize all three of the points on this triangle: reliability, sustainability, and affordability. We just mentioned this in the key planning assumptions. We are anticipating relatively flat sales growth. Over the next year, we plan to make our forecasting a bit more robust and granular, leveraging the data and resources we have to make sure we are prepared for growth, not just overall, but in the specific places that it might happen. Our plan for O&M growth is to hold to a 3% annual increase, which is lower than the past several years. And we will continue to manage fuel and purchase power expense volatility, invest in our system, comply with regulations, plan for growth, and target healthy financial metrics. The next 10 years will require more revenue year over year to do all of these things. And some of this will come from growth, and the rest will need to come from rate increases. And that is the very biggest reason for us to stay diligent in evaluating the plan, adjusting, then reevaluating to make sure we're doing all we can to keep the balance of sustainability, reliability, and affordability. All right, you've seen this graphic before. It illustrates the makeup of every dollar on a JEA customer bill, and this is the exact breakdown in our fiscal year 24 budget. Almost half is what we would call controllable, and I'll repeat what Chair Stein has said, O&M and capital. But truly, we are stewards of every piece of this dollar.
even the pieces that seem less controllable. This graphic provides a table of contents for the rest of our conversation, and we will review a 10-year projection for each category as we continue. First, we can see a glimpse of the plan as a whole, broken into each component. You can clearly see the need for additional revenue year over year to cover each of these expenses, mainly driven by capital needs for regulations and generation additions. Operations and maintenance expenses are held to a 3% annual escalation for this forecast. This will require a very hard look at prioritization and efficiencies. It is a bit of a stretch goal, as we have seen a 22% increase in fiscal year 23 and an 8% increase in 24. These increases were due to multiple things: increased labor costs, the new lease expense for our headquarters, a large remediation project at the Kennedy Generating Station, and just general increases in costs. While we will operate off a 3% annual increase assumptions for this cycle, we are already working to provide a more dynamic operating expense forecast that better reflects our project plan. The supporting plans that Laura mentioned will provide insight into future year operating expenses, specifically the workforce plan, which will help us be more precise on labor cost needs.
Hey, Julie, one thing, this is a little bit for the board and mostly for the 200 people that are online. Many of them are directors and within the organization. The fact that it says it's a 3%, that's our planning target. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a flat 3% for every group. And we're going to work to drive that down lower. But this is what we've got in for the long range plan. It doesn't mean that we're done with next year's number yet. We're going to keep on working to bring that number down and to push. And it's also not a peanut butter spread of 3%. So you're not done with your budget because I just told you 3%, in other words. So we're going to continue to work on it.
No, and thank you for making that distinction, because, you know, I've been challenging us to look at our expenses for a while, and there's so much we can't control, but there are some things that are within our control. So I appreciate your commitment to dive deeper into what that looks like.
And I've said to Jay that we should possibly looking at somebody come in and see how we're spending our O&M and capital. I know there's some things that Jay and his team are working on, but I just don't understand. I know O&M is a lot of labor and how much of that you can control, but I think it's something we should focus in on, is how do we understand, you know, what is O&M? How do we control O&M? What is capital? How do we control capital? Some of it is out of our control, like Senate Bill 64. If we can work through that, that will reduce. You know, some of it is, you know, possibly retiring the natural gas plant at Northside and moving it to Greenland. Is there an opportunity to rework Northside? I mean, some of these things I think it'd be worth talking about. A deeper dive is really get focused on, you know, what we can do. I don't want to not spend money when we should, but I also want to make sure that we're all disciplined on where money can be made and where money should not be spent. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does, and I think that's, so our intent is to bring back each piece of that information. And while this is a long range view, whenever we boil down into the 3-year business plan, I think it will have those kind of details to present to you. And then, because the 3-year business plan isn't just chopping off the first 3 years of this and saying, here's your plan. That will have a lot more of the work that you're talking about, that to be able to cut down on the expenses and to prioritize the work that we need to do on O&M and in capital. And prioritizing sometimes means delaying projects, not doing projects, or moving projects forward. It's not always just pushing them out. And you said Senate Bill 64, that's another piece of this that we need to be sure that we're continuing to work with the legislature and DEP to be sure that they understand the complexities of trying to meet the regulation. This plan, we're not to the capital plan yet, but this plan includes compliance with Senate Bill 64 in the plan, which is a significant expense.
But Jay, I think this is not something we have to do today, but I do think it's to understand where these the big capital items are being spent, it's worth some time because, and O&M, where is the money spent?
Yes.
Because to be honest, I don't understand it. I mean, I know it's a big number. I mean, $1.3 billion to be spent in 1 year is a lot of money every year. And is there opportunities of savings? Is there opportunities to, delay? Is there opportunities to be smarter of how we've done it in the past? I don't know if John or Rick or Anza or
I'd go, so the O&M is the one that always concerns me. And I always look at it, and I see some of it in my world that I live in. I just wonder, wish there was a little bit better insight into that.
We'll get you the insight in this next cycle, in the next few months.
All right, thank you.
I would only add that the way you drive costs down, you need to get some outside help, and it needs to become a relentless focus and something that we talk about every day, that eliminating waste, not eliminating things that need to be done. And that works. And I don't hear that. And I think it would be great, to Marty's thing, if whether we have an extra board meeting a quarter or what, that we go through these things and not to be a pain in your fanny, but just to make sure we've got real accountability on the fact that there is relentless focus on eliminating waste.
And the other thing I've seen is sometimes you're so focused on that, you're not spending money where you should be spending. So it's a balance.
It's a balance.
And it's a smart balance. But I'd say to you guys that, more educated we could be, the more helpful we could be, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, moving on to fuel and purchase power. Our fuel and purchase power forecast reflects executing on the plan set forth in the electric IRP to meet clean energy goals by 2030. This clean category contains a small amount of landfill gas, solar energy, and nuclear energy from Vogtle. JEA specific fuel makes up 70 to 80% of the total expense, and we work very hard to manage that volatility through hedging programs, as this cost is passed directly on to customers every month. It's also noted on the slide that these bars reflect dollars, not energy. So our IRP goal of 35% by 2030 is based on energy. So in case you're wanting to do that math, it's not going to come out the right way.
And another thing I would speak to on this, and it's not something we got to do today, but we got a 20-year agreement on Plant Vogtle. Is there a thought of at some point buying a longer term, selling a piece off to other? I think that's an exercise we should go through. Is do you put yourself in a situation of what is the value of this asset? And, at some point there might be some parts of MEAG that wants to sell part, or they might need more nuclear. So I just think it's something that I'd like to understand better at some point. Does that make sense at all?
It does. It's also consistent with the integrated resource plan. We committed to updating that plan every 3 years. And by the time, when we do it this next time, both of the units will be up and online and in that contract. And so that'll be part of that planning process, because whether it is associated directly with some change in the contract with MEAG beyond the 20 years, or it is something else. We've got to replace 200 megawatts of carbon-free 92% energy it's another reason that we're doing this the way we're doing this. This 10-year plan takes us out to 2034, and what we're talking about is only 2043. So it's within sight of this what the solution for Vogel is not even on yet, but it's important that we start thinking about what we might be able to use to replace it, because it took 15 or 16 years to get this one.
And another thing that the price of uranium's gone from like 60 something to 100. And, it's one of the few products that is not sanctioned by Russia, but a majority of the uranium in the world comes from Russia. And for them to cut, us off on that supply, how does that affect the cost of the operation of Vogel? It's something we should look at. So again, how can we get smarter on some of these things would be helpful.
Yes. I think that's also important as part of the discussion that we continue to have discussion with both MEAG and Southern around issues like that. Thank you.
All right, moving on to capital. The next 10 years will look drastically different than the previous decade when it comes to the capital plan. The biggest drivers are regulations on surface water discharge and the need for new electric generation, which was part of the IRP. The $9 billion plan will create the need for $4 billion in new debt. One metric we make sure that we keep an eye on, especially in capital intensive periods, is our debt to asset ratio. And as you can see for the electric and water system, the plan shows it between 40% and 54% with a target of 50%. Non-fuel purchase power, like fuel and purchase power, is an expense category incurred by supplying energy. But unlike fuel, these expenses are recovered through our base rates. These usually cover things like the debt service obligation of another entity, transmission expenses, or capacity-related expenses. And as you can see, looking at the middle section, Vogel payments are the largest expense in this category.
You can see the cost of Vogel. Go back to that slide. You can see the cost of Vogel from 23 to 24 to 25. Yeah. So, that's shows you a big piece of our purchase power is Vogel.
When you look at the slide, is 2023 A and B, is that part of because the fiscal year? Or why is 2023 broken into an A and B?
23 is actuals, 24 is what we budgeted.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to debt payments. It does stand to reason that when there is a $4 billion borrowing need, the debt payment will also increase over the forecast period. While this is a very high-level plan, our FP&A and Treasury area are working together to make sure we are structuring this new debt in the most optimal way, and we'll continually make tweaks to this plan as necessary to drive the expense down.
Jay, when do we anticipate bond issuances? Is it every year?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, every year.
I was looking, it shows more detail, but no, yes, for a while, every year.
And then moving on to
And this level of debt, I'm so sorry. This level of debt is still not at the high water mark of the debt levels of 20 years ago, correct?
That's correct.
So an illustration of that for me would be really helpful. In the future, just at a future meeting.
We can get that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to city contribution. Not a ton to say here, just the current forecast assumes that our payments to the city follow the current agreement and will continue through the 10-year window. Okay, and then another summary chart. This chart matches the shape of the very first one that I showed you with all the pieces of the total stacked up, but this version shows the revenue need by system. You can see that there is a need for additional revenue in all systems every year. There are a few revenue sources that make up the total seen at the top of these bars. The largest is, of course, revenue from bills to our customers. Other sources are capacity fees, things we call other revenues. An example of that would be a late fee. Income from our investments. It's a very small funding source, but it still counts. Some of the additional revenue from our customers will materialize with growth, more customers that pay for our services, and some will need to come from rate increases. We see the need for an average of $60 million each year, 25 through 27 in the electric system, and the majority of that would need to come from rate increases. The water system needs an average of $45 million a year, but about a third of that should come from growth. And this has not been translated down into the impact to a customer bill yet. Specific rate recommendations will come to the board, as they typically do, with support from our rates team, informed by a cost of service study, much like Victor presented today.
Let me ask you a question. Is this net debt of escrows?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
So when we're issuing debt, can we narrow these escrows, or is that something that we negotiate, or what's that?
Yes, sir, we can, and that's some conversation we've been having to, try to limit the amount that we have to put in debt service reserve funds as we move forward.
Any other questions?
Just so that I'm clear, the percentage increase to the rates will be layered in? Or are you suggesting that they won't? You mentioned that they're not part of this. So will we layer those in at a future date?
So yes,
all things being equal, this slide not changing, the increase in rates would be X percent.
Correct. So this shows the revenue need, assuming that part of that does come from rate increases. We will dive down deeper. I think I said the electric system possibly needs $60 million in a year. Then we'll boil that down to exactly what that means for a rate class or for what the bill looks like. We'll go through that process much more in depth and then come with rate recommendations.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, this view shows our board-approved pricing policy targets because we felt it was important to show each financial metric this plan produces. All targets are achieved in the immediate 3 years. There are 3 years where we land above our debt to asset target. However, we will continue to refine the plan to get those more aligned. We, along with the rating agencies, will keep an eye on these metrics to make sure we are minimizing borrowing costs and, more importantly, ensuring the financial health of JEA.
Ms. Linehan, your comment before, so our target is that 50% the debt to asset ratio. So we do bump over a little bit in some of the out years. And so we'll keep working to try to get that below. But to your point, I think in 2010-11 timeframe on the electric side, we were like 90% to asset ratio. So we're nowhere in that neighborhood.
But today we have challenges. One is climate. One is our customers. We're the lowest probably in the state. And one is we've got a shareholder we've got to make sure that we maintain, because making sure the city is healthy, make sure JEA grows. So we got to just think through all these components, and they're adding components to us from regulations to clean energy. So it's a tough balancing act you guys have looking forward.
But this slide keeps us at our current ratings, correct? I mean, the rating agencies wouldn't, we don't control what they say, but
exactly.
Philosophically.
The metrics that they are currently using and that we set our targets. So I do think that we may come back with a change on the fixed charge coverage later on, where that is going from, I think our current policy is 1.6 to 1.5, but 1.5 is the metric that the rating agencies use. So that's why we're talking about making just a slight tweak to that.
Great, thank you.
All right, as we continue through this process that was laid out, we will go to work creating the key supporting plans that will inform our 3-year business plan. And then that in turn will turn into our 25 budget. And I'm going to say it one more time, this process is very brand new and we're discovering new ways to improve every day. But our hope is that this will provide a clearer look into the future and provide a map for our execution. And with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Great work, guys, and now we got to go to work. Lot of work to be done, but you guys have done a lot of great work. Any old or other new business? Okay. So, let me give a little bit of the CEO evaluation and board assessment. In accordance with the board policy manual, in December, the board completed both the annual CEO evaluation and the annual board self-assessment. I met with Jay on December 21st to review the evaluation and feedback from board members. Results are in Appendix H. At the end of last year, we moved away from the committee structure with the plan to provide the board as a whole with deep dive and strategic topics. As part of the self-assessment, we've heard from board members that they feel there's a value in having committees, and more specifically, finance and audit. To answer that request, I'd like to bring back the Finance and Audit Committee, which will be chaired by Joe DeSalvo, along with board members Rick Morales and Kwanzaa Humphrey. The committee primary function is to assist the board in fulfilling its oversight responsibilities by reviewing JEA's financial information, systems of internal controls, audit process, operating and capital budget. The committee will provide an open avenue of communication between the board, management, audit services, and external auditors. The committee's first meeting will be on February 23rd at 9 a.m. All board members are welcome to attend. So while you were gone, Rick,
Sorry.
you were added to a committee, and we reestablished our Finance and Audit Committee, which Joe will chair, and you and Kwanzaa will be members, and whoever else wants to join. But I think a lot of the work that we spoke about today can fit under that committee. So I appreciate all the comments, and I think it's a great idea to bring the Finance and Audit Committee back.
Can we add governance to that, or is that too, I mean, it just feels to me that, you know, we're the governing policy-making board. Can we just add the word governance, and then they can make sure we do the CEO evaluation and the board evaluation as well?
I'm fine with that.
That's what the old committee was called, finance.
I'm fine with that. Rick, Kwanzaa, John.
It just gives a forum for if there is a governance issue that we did need to discuss,
We have a
which,
committee
that
for
we
it to
have
go
a
to.
committee for it to go to.
Kwanzaa, feel comfortable?
Yes.
Rick, feel comfortable? Yeah, let's add it. And it's that time, a slate of officers. Again, the board will begin the process of selecting a new slate of officers. I'll ask John Baker to work with Jay and his team to schedule an executive committee, since as the past chair, John is leading the committee. The committee is charged with beginning discussions to make a recommendation to the full board for a new slate of officers, which will take effect on April 1.
Okay.
Anything to add on that? I heard everybody. I appreciate all the comments. And I think we made a tremendous amount of progress as a board with John's leadership from the beginning. We still got a long ways to go. I'm not concerned about what's going to happen behind us in the court. I think we've got 2,000 great employees. We've got an executive team and Jay who have showed the commitment of excellence, and we will have some bumps in the road, but we are working on how do we become best in class so we can provide a great value to our customer, the citizens in the city of Jacksonville. And with that, any other comments? The meeting's adjourned.
Congratulations again on the number one in the South. It's been one of your targets, and